EU leaders have postponed a deal on how to divide the bloc's top jobs, opening the door to further bargaining before a summit next week.
I think she's an excellent candidate for a next term as Commission President. Obviously, there is also a question of the whole package. That's why tonight I do not expect. Formally, we cannot decide, but also I think in an informal meeting there will be more consensus, is my expectation. So the formal decision next week.
OK, the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte speaking there in front of a sea of bobbing microphones. To discuss the details, let's bring in Bloomberg's Oliver Crook, who joins him now from Berlin. Oliver, what is the latest then on this deal?
Yeah, Tom, well, that sea of bobbing microphones was really hoping for an outcome for an EU government from that meeting. That was kind of the reporting into last week, into this week. And of course, now we know that they have not sort of managed. And despite the fact that the center held, it appears that the center is still bickering on a few points. And really sort of interesting because, again, there was a hope to have some consensus. And we heard, in fact, from the Danish Prime Minister basically illustrating the scale of the issues that need to be addressed and the speed at which they need to be resolved. Have a listen to what she had to say.
I mean, we are still in the middle of a war that's going on in Europe. We have a lot of challenges in front of us, especially on migration, climate change. We still need a social balanced European Union, and we need to have a stronger Europe in the future. So with all these challenges and all the decisions in front of us, I think it's important that we take a decision as fast and as quick as possible.
So that meeting went late into the night. And where does that leave things right now? Well, basically, Ursula von der Leyen is still the front runner for the Commission, as Prime Minister Rutte formerly suggested that she's still in the running. But it's the broader package. We still have Kaja Kallas likely as the sort of main foreign minister for the EU. The question, interestingly enough, Tom, is around the sort of European Council president, the post that is currently held by Charles Michel, whose job it is actually to bring these leaders together to make decisions like these. We understand that the EPP is vying to sort of break that down into a 2.5-year term rather than the current 5-year term, which would be a sort of, a bit of a more of a power grab for the EPP having done so well. But that will then now push this decision into next week for that European informal leaders meeting, as we say. But that, Tom, wraps on the 28th. 2 days later is the first round of French voting.
Oh, yeah. Talking of which, Oliver, and we heard from the Danish Prime Minister the challenges that the bloc faces. One of the challenges, clearly, is that continued support for Ukraine. And you talk about the French element, the political crisis in France. To what extent is that weighing on the minds of EU leaders in terms of a potential headwind in terms of their ability to support Ukraine?
Tom, I think it's a huge concern for all of them. I mean, let's just think about it. Even with sort of people that agree on principle within the sort of EU, it's been very challenging to get some of this funding through. There's a lot of bickering still, at the top level. If you get to a position where you have basically an opposition government in sort of domestic policy in France, that throws open a whole litany of questions, right? Macron has been very sort of outspoken on the Ukraine issue. I mean, he's the one who's sort of teased the ability of potentially putting boots on the ground. The fact of the matter is we don't really know what Le Pen's position would be on a number of issues, not least of which Ukraine and defense. She has been sort of more pro-Russian in the past. She has openly admired Vladimir Putin in some of the comments that she's made. And they used to have a little pamphlet on their website, which came down at some point last week. That was sort of their proposal on European defense. One of the tenets of that was to remove France from the NATO command structure, right? That is now gone. So that leaves a lot of questions for a lot of people about what that would look like domestically. And if Macron himself is sort of swimming against the current in his own country, it's going to obviously impede his power within Europe. And if at home domestically the message is, hey, listen, Monsieur Macron, we're actually more Euro-skeptical, that's going to make things a lot harder to get done at the EU level.